Deloitte released its business outlook with significant upgrades to its economic forecast for Australia, suggesting that our economy will contract by 3% this calendar year and grow by 4.7% next calendar year. This shows that Australia is performing much better than many other nations during this once-in-a-century pandemic. This report also follows recent reports from the IMF and the OECD, who praised Australia's economic performance and that our response has been strong and has helped set Australia up to deal with the challenges that we face. It also follows reaffirmation by the three leading credit rating agencies of Australia's AAA credit rating. In this Deloitte economic outlook, they do point out that Australia entered into this crisis from a position of economic strength, that debt was low and that the budget was balanced, and that programs like JobKeeper, as well as the many other support packages and initiatives that the government has announced, has helped save lives and has helped keep people in jobs. It also points out that we have got money into people's pockets much faster than previous governments have done, including during the GFC. And that some of those sectors that were hardest hit, including the arts, food, accommodation, are starting to open up again and the jobs are coming back. But this Deloitte report also points out the challenges that we face, and particularly the recent spike in cases in Victoria. We're all in this together. This is not state of origin. Australia's success depends on Victoria's success in stemming the tide of these new cases and getting it under control. And that's why we welcome the announcement by states to provide additional support to Victoria, and as well as that, the Commonwealth continues to provide the necessary support that Victoria needs during these pretty trying times. Any questions?
How much will the closure of the New South Wales-Victoria border impede that economic recovery, though?
Well, it has to say that this outbreak in Victoria, while serious, while significant, it's not a surprise that we are going to see some outbreaks in the period ahead. Australia has had great success in flattening that curve, and that has allowed many of our sectors to start to reopen again. But there are going to be these challenges. Now, with regards to the border closures that you're talking about, they're decisions that state premiers are taking based on the advice to them. And I'm not going to second guess that advice, other than to say we obviously need to ensure that our communities are safe and that the economy continues to recover. When it comes to the future forecasts, we will obviously be updating those, and that will be part of our economic and fiscal update on the 23rd of July.
But Treasurer, you have questioned before quite strongly with Queensland. You said unequivocally closed borders cost jobs. So how many jobs will this decision today cost?
Well, when we were talking about the Queensland borders, we had that specific advice from the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, who said there was no medical reasons for those borders to remain closed. What we're saying here is that we obviously want the recovery to continue apace, but when decisions are taken, like these in relation to the spike, then obviously we'll have to
come back. What the reason, do closed borders cost jobs?
Well, there's no doubt, in my view, that closed borders do cost jobs, but we are facing a significant spike in cases from Victoria.
So has the medical advice changed then? Was the Prime Minister the one that was told?
Well, in terms of the Victorian situation, the medical authorities are consulting very closely on this. They have been having a number of emergency meetings to discuss these related issues. What we have seen in Victoria is a significant number of new cases, and it's very challenging times, but of course we'll continue to work with the states to ensure that not only the economy opens, but that we can get the health support to those who need it.
The Chief Medical Officer said that the community transmission in Victoria is unlike anything so far seen in Australia. Do those kinds of extraordinary circumstances mean we should see more border closures, that Victoria should close its borders to all states?
Well, let's just wait and see
about the period ahead. I think the next couple of weeks will be really telling. I think what happens in the next couple of weeks in terms of the steps that the Victorian government have taken to ensure that we can try to stop the rise in the number of cases, that we can, with contact tracing and testing, we can continue to take the steps necessary. I think that's going to be critical. Let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks. We're in a very challenging period.
Given the impact on the economy and jobs, I guess, what's your message to Victoria about how it should reopen its borders and economy once this is brought more under control?
Well, of course, once it's brought under control, we want the economy to get back to normal as soon as possible. That's the reality of it. That's why we've been pushing so hard through the National Cabinet and through our bilateral discussions to ensure that we can put in place the necessary measures to protect petite people as they get back into work. And that's why tracing and testing, and that's why effective quarantine is so important. And we've seen obviously some failures in that regard. But the key message is this is not a time for state v state. This is not state of origin. We're all in this together. And Victoria's success in the weeks ahead in stemming the tide of new cases will affect the whole economy as a whole. We've recently seen some consumer confidence numbers from a weekly ANZ survey, and it showed that consumer confidence fell off the back of what we saw in Victoria. So consumer confidence has picked up about 80% off its lows. Business confidence has picked up about 70% off its lows. But the recovery very much depends on success on the health front.
You mentioned the July 23 economic statement and working towards the budget in October. As you're doing that, will you be auditioning colleagues you think might replace Matthias in the finance portfolio?
Look, we know that Matthias will leave a big hole. He's been a fantastic finance minister, Australia's longest serving finance minister, and his departure at the end of the year will be a real loss for our team because he's been such a significant figure and he's been a great friend and colleague for me as well as many others. But I'll continue to work closely with him, not only on the 23rd of July statement, but also on the budget in October and then the MAIFO at the end of the year.
Treasurer, in March when you announced the early access to super, you estimated about 27 billion cost with 1.5 million. And now you're at 2.5 million people before the second half of this has gone, and more than 18 billion's gone out the door. How have you guys got it so wrong in terms of the estimate of the number of people, and what sort of ramifications is that going to have to your budget and to retirement savings, given that more people are taking this up than you clearly envisaged?
Well, Shane, we've got it so right because we've actually given people an opportunity to get access to their own money, and people have very clearly voted with their feet here. What they have done is they've accessed their savings at a time of hardship, and that has been the test. Now, we forecast around $29 billion. Right now we're about $25 billion, including those early access in the second half of the year. But as you know, under the existing super scheme, people can access their super at times of hardship. We've done this tax-free for them. This money is being used to obviously to pay some of the debts that people have, but also to meet the daily discretionary expenses during this crisis. So I stand by that policy. I think it's been very effective.
How concerned are you?
Sorry, last one.
Sorry, can I just clarify something? You cited the Deloitte report and some of those points they made. Do you also take seriously their warnings about the risk of withdrawing economic supports too soon, and specifically that job seeker will need to remain higher to capture those people for whom some of that broader support is being withdrawn?
Well, the report talks about JobKeeper and JobSeeker being standouts and praising those two policies among many others. What the Prime Minister and I have made very clear is we're going to continue to provide the support that is necessary for those sectors and for those people who need it. Now, we've already announced a number of significant initiatives for the housing sector with the Home Builder program, support for the arts sector with the $250 million program, increased support for the aviation sector, and of course the tourism sector. So we'll continue to look for sector-specific support as well as economy-wide support that we have been providing through JobKeeper and JobSeeker all will be revealed in that week of the 23rd. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Is it a threat to national security?
Look, we're very concerned about foreign interference in social media platforms and the spread of fake news. And so these are issues that we are talking to our Five Eyes partners about, taking advice from the security agencies, and the steps that we take in relation to a whole range of areas in relation to social media will be based on the advice we get. Thank you.